school-based examination showed there was technical glitch during the exercise. TVC News On now joins me for more on the news. On, from JAM to WAEC, what do you have for us on this issue?
Well, we are in the days of glitches, and so let's just run through a few numbers to understand it better, so that when we express that outrage, we channel it properly. First of all, is that we are looking at 3 years, 2023, 2024, 2025, and we are considering a number of factors. Number one is total number of candidates. If you notice, there's a steady increase in the number of candidates that sit for the exam. Credit in English and credit plus in 5 subjects, including English and mathematics. You notice that there is a decline in percentage of people that got that result up till this moment. All right? Now, credit plus in 5 subjects, whether English is there or not, there is a steady decline between last 2 years and last year, and suddenly there is a skip to 91% after today's correction by WAEC. Now, there is an interesting part to it. Withheld results, which is the data you can rely on to say that this exam, there are people that cheated and were caught by the examiners and they seized the result. If you notice, there is a constant decline in the number, which is positive, right? But we'll look at all of this as we progress. But remember that this outrage didn't start when the result was released. It started somewhere in May when the exam was written, when it was reported around the 28th of May that English examination that was scheduled to be written at 12 noon sat from 6 p.m. to the extent that some children left the exam hall by 10 p.m. Some of those exam halls do not have electricity. They were not provided for to be used at night. But the students were compelled to use phones, lights of the phones and all manner of, illumination to sit for the exam. That was when the outrage started. But the media took over the report that period, and it was reported everywhere that outrage, for instance, this by the Daily Post, outrage as WAEC candidates sit for exams under torchlight at 11 p.m. in Benue. Very specific about this. Now, if you look at this and all that has happened within the WAEC exam period and make a conclusion, you may not be having a clear understanding of how big the issue is until you go back to that same May when the result for the JAM Joint Admission Matriculation Board was released. Remember, there was a bit of drama after the first release of the result. The JAM registrar came on TV, cried in front of the camera, apologized that there were glitches, and then some places they had to resit the exam for some students. So JAM and WAEC had similar experience of glitches. Let's move on a bit so that we'll be faster. Now, summarize all of this, we can make very quick conclusions, and that is, number one, more students register for all these examinations. That's number one. From the data we saw, there's a gradual increase in the number of students that register for the examination. The next thing is there is the percentage of failure keep rising. The percentage of failure keep rising. From the data that WAEC released this evening, there appears to be a shift, particularly in the people that have 5 credits in all the subjects, whether there is English or maths in it or not. It skipped to 90-something%, but we may still have to wait a bit before we come to a final conclusion on that, realizing the fact that, as we saw also as reported in the media, that English was written at night. How suddenly everything changed after the outrage, we will still need to wait for a while to find out. Now, the number of withheld results are declining, which one can say, oh, it seems that the credibility of the exam is getting better. People do not have the opportunity to cheat more, and so the number of people that were caught and their results withheld is reducing. That's also a very soft conclusion to make, because when you interrogate that factor the more, you may discover that there are a little bit more behind it. We may not be able to go into all of that within the short time that we have. Now, teachers and the education system seem not to have any response with what is going on. Steady decline in the number of people that pass the WAEC and even JAMB, and this education system and the teachers themselves appear to be helpless. Examination bodies, in this instance, WAEC and JAMB, now have a common enemy, glitches. JAMB blamed glitches, WAEC blamed glitches. They are snubbed, and they all apologized. JAMB apologized. WAEC apologized for the psychological trauma the students were put through and all of that. But the bigger question is, how credible is that process, the exam process, the exam bodies, for us to be within a year, 2015, JAMB was messed up, WAEC was messed up. And that may now mean that there is need for sincere reform in the education sector, and that has to be done now. That reform must include the reassessment of the need for those exam bodies. It appears that WAEC and JAMB have analog processes trying to solve digital problem. And that is why at each instance, they go back to blame that same common enemy that they have. So the outrage, yes, but we may need to look deeper and channel the outrage better, because we are in the days of glitches.
Uzonna, it's really a tough one. We're waiting for people to fully soak in this new release by WAEC and calling it, the authentic result. We really wait to see how parents would react to it. But thank you very much for this. We hope that we are able to solve these digital problems, with digital solutions and get it right.
And that is why there is need for urgent reform in the entire system, reviewing the curriculum of the schools, of this, what people study and all of that, whether it makes sense for today's digital age, and then the process of even learning and examination.
Very important. Uzonna Noye, thank you very much for that very robust
My pleasure.
update.